So we are going to be starting our perspective unit, and we want to begin by just the basics. We're learning 2-point perspective, and on our first drawing we're going to be working with a series of boxes drawn in perspective, and this is an example of what it is that we're going to be drawing. So we're going to start with drawing this box below the horizon line, then we're going to be placing a box above the horizon line, and then one right on the horizon line, and then we're going to build a staircase out of a box. After we build the staircase, then I'm going to have you put a hole in the box above, and then a challenge would be to place one box on top of this box here. So we're going to be working with all these boxes. This is the easier of the two practice activities. So if you have any difficulty at all, make sure you let me know right away so that we can problem solve through that together, because this is challenging. A lot of students do find this can be frustrating, and other students find that it's completely liberating. They learn a whole new way of seeing. So all of it's perfectly normal, so let me know if you have any trouble at all and we'll get through it. So to start with, I want to draw my horizon line, and this line, that's the line through the middle of this, well, it's not quite in the middle, it's above. This is my horizon line. It represents my eye level. That's where my eye level in this space is. So I'm looking down on these boxes, I'm looking up on that box, and I'm looking at this box on my eye level. So we're going to place this line. I have it placed about 3.5 inches from the top of the page. You don't have to measure that or anything, but just somewhere near the nearer to the top than the bottom. You can see I've got a lot more space below than above. So I'm just going to lay my ruler so that this is somewhat parallel. You don't have to measure, like I said. If you want to measure, you can. But everything's going to be drawn from this line, not necessarily the edges of the page. So if it's a little bit off, that's okay, because, like I said, everything is going to be drawn in relation to the line that I'm drawing. So I'm going to start with this line all the way across the page, so an 18-inch long line. And I'm going to put a dot on each end and mark VP for vanishing point on both of those ends. And those are the dots that are going to guide me for all of my lines other than the ones that are perpendicular to my horizon line, which is why we have a triangle. So if you have not learned how to use a triangle before, this will be a lesson on how to work with that effectively. So we're going to begin our first box by drawing a vertical line below the horizon line. So remember, this is my eye level, so it's going to be below the horizon line, and it's going to be perpendicular to our horizon line. So on my triangle, I want to line up this edge, because this is a 90-degree angle on my triangle. So I know that if I line my triangle up with this line precisely, then I know that any line I draw here is going to be perpendicular to this one. Now, if I were to line this up crooked here, well, it's not lined up, this is not going to be perpendicular. So it's very important that I get my triangle lined up right here before I draw any line. Now I'm going to draw my line for this box below the horizon line, and I made it, it's probably 3.5 inches long here, below, but not touching the bottom of the page. Now from here, I'm going to be working with my vanishing points, because now I need to establish the sides. This is the corner of the box that is closest to me, and I always recommend that you start with the line of any box that is closest to you as the viewer. So now I'm going to line up the bottom of the line that I made with my vanishing point on this right side. Now I could go all the way there, but instead I'm only going to make, as long as it's pointing to that dot, I can stop the line where I think I want to stop it for the length of the side. So I'm making it about that long. Now the top of the box is also going to be drawn to the vanishing point. And you might think these two sides need to be parallel, but in truth, no, they do not. They should not be. I need to make sure that they both point toward the vanishing point. So now I need to guess at how long this line might be, because I know I'm going to have a vertical in there to connect those two. So that's going to be the side of the box. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side, lining up with my left vanishing point and the bottom of the line. And again, I'm going to make the length of the side the length that I want it to be. And then I'm going to line up my left vanishing point again to the top of the line. And I know I'm going to need a vertical to connect these two, so I'm guessing at the length there. It's probably a little bit longer than it needs to be. But that is the start of my box. This is side 1, side 2. Now there's going to be a top here, and we don't see the bottom because it's underneath the box. But the very next step is again to go back to my triangle, and I need to establish the side. So again, I need these two sides to be completely perpendicular to this horizon line. So I'm going to line up my triangle with this vanishing, or with the horizon line, and connect from the bottom of the line and up. And I'm slightly long on my first line that I made across the top there, so I'll have to erase that a little bit. And I'm going to line up, again I'm lining up here, that's what I'm checking. I'm also checking to make sure it's lined up there, and it looks like I did a pretty good guess job on the length of this side because it lines up just right. So now I have the two sides of my box, and I need to connect to the vanishing point from each corner to the opposite vanishing point to get the top of the box. So I'm going to go from my left side here to this vanishing point, and again I'm going to have to guess on the length. And my triangle is not going to reach to the other vanishing points. I'm going to go back to my ruler. And I'm going to go from the right side of the box to my left vanishing point. And those two lines are going to intersect here. Now obviously I overdrew the one, so I need an eraser to erase out. And there I have my first correctly drawn 2-point perspective box. 2 points mean 2 vanishing points. This is drawn correctly, so it all is looking good. So now I'm ready to challenge myself with a box above the horizon line. Let's see what that looks like. This would be something up in the air that is box-like. So like maybe a light fixture if I were in a room, something like that. So again, I'm going to use my triangle, but I want to turn my triangle so that it is pointing upward because I need to draw the first line perpendicular to my horizon line. So I'm going to line my triangle up with the horizon line. That allows me to make a line up above that is perpendicular to my horizon line. And I'm going to draw the sides of the box. Same thing as below. I'm going to go from the bottom of the line pointed toward my vanishing point, and I can choose how long that side is going to be. And now I need to guess again, vanishing point to the top of the line. There's one side of the box. Now my triangle, oh, it does reach. Okay, so I'm going to go from the top of the line to the vanishing point. I'm going to make this a more shallow box, we're going to be putting a hole through this one, so I want to be able to see the other side. So again, I'm going from my right vanishing point to the bottom of the line. Again, guessing at the length there. And now I need to make 2 verticals, and I'm going to, again, use the edge of my triangle, line it up with my horizon line. Got to make sure that's lined up or it's not going to be correct. And I'm going to draw the side on the box. So there I have 2 sides of the box. Now the next thing I need is not the top, because this is above my eye level, so I'm not going to be able to see the top, but I can see the bottom of this box. Whereas this one went below my eye level, so I can't see the bottom, but I can see the top. So now I want to connect the opposite corner, so in this case the right side to the left vanishing point. I'm going to guess on the length, and I don't think this is going to fit. Nope, it's not going to reach. So now I'm going to go from my left side of the box to my right vanishing point. And there is my box that's floating up in the air. So my next one is to actually make a box that is on the horizon line. This would be something, if you think about in scale, maybe a building where you can't see the top and you can't see the bottom because the middle of the box, or in this case the building, is on your eye level. So you're looking at the center or mid area of the box. So we're going to be placing not the edge of the triangle, because then I would only be able to get a line below, but using the handle opening as the guide. So I'm going to line up the inside of the handle with my horizon line. So now I've got this lined up with my horizon line, which frees me up to be able to draw a box that goes through my eye level line or my horizon line. Now this can be as either direction, taller, it could be in the direct middle. I've got a little bit more space at the top than the bottom. It's up to you how you want that to be. And now I'm going to use my vanishing point to the bottom of the line and the top of the line on each side to establish the sides of the box. So I'm not measuring anything particular. I'm just kind of thinking building here. So I want to kind of make a smaller front on this side. The front of the building's this way. You can make it however you'd like. So again, I'm right vanishing point at the top of the line. Make it a little bit deeper on this side. Right vanishing point at the bottom of the line. Guessing at the length there. And now again, using the handle line of my triangle. So I'm lining this up here and making sure it's close to my points there. I did a pretty good job guessing the length there because there's no erasing needed. And now I can go down to this side. Oh, I did a pretty good job on this one too. So I'm going to line up this with my horizon line. And there, now I can't see the top or bottom of that box because it falls right on my horizon line, and that's okay. So I don't have anything else to draw on that one, it's complete. So the next box I'm going to draw is going to be a very large box down here, and we're going to create a staircase out of it. So again, always begin with the line that is closest to you as the viewer. Now this is going to be a big box, so I'm going to think about where that first line is going to be. Now I need to have a side on here and a side on here. So I want to make sure that I'm moving it to a spot where I have enough length to do the side of the staircase there. Because if you remember, we've got to have some length here to be able to work with. So I don't want to get too close to that edge. I want to make sure that I'm in far enough. So the first line, this line that you can see that's erased here, that's the line I'm drawing first. So I need to make sure there's enough length there to get the whole box in place. So I think I'm going to move in a little bit more. And I'm lining this up with my horizon line. And I'm going to go very close, about an inch away from the bottom of the page. I'm going to stop about there because I know this is going to be a big box. It's going to have a large top on it. I don't want the top to interfere with going above the horizon line. That would not be something I want. So there's the start. This line is about 4 inches tall. And I'm going to, again, now I know what I'm making here. So this is a staircase. So I know the side of the steps needs to be over here. So I'm going to go from the bottom of the line toward my left vanishing point. I'm going to do the same for this top line. Again, guessing at the length because I know I need a vertical there to connect them. So that's the side of the steps. And I know I need my ruler because there's no way that's going to reach. So now I'm going to go to my right vanishing point, to the bottom of the line. Remember, this is the front where I'd be stepping onto the stair, so I don't need to make it as long. This is where I'll be stepping up if I was to enter the staircase. So now I'm going to go to the top of that line that I made to my right vanishing point. Again, guessing at the length because I know I'm going to need a vertical to connect those two. So there's the side. The two sides of my steps. This will be where I go up. This is the side of the staircase. So now I need my two verticals. They must be perpendicular to my horizon line. So again, I'm lining up this edge of my triangle to the horizon line, making sure this is straight. And that lines up with this line here. Looks like I will have to adjust that length because it's a little bit long, no big deal. I'm going to flip my triangle this way. Again, lining up that edge, the edge of my triangle with the horizon line, lining up with one of my marks there, and this one's a little bit long as well. So now I have my two sides established. I want to erase off that extra. And now I'm ready to put the top on the box. So I'm going to go from my vanishing point on the left to my top corner on the right. And this side's not going to reach, so I need to use my ruler. Right vanishing point to the left top corner of the box. I'm going to stop where the lines would intersect. Drew that one a little bit long as well, so I'm going to erase just a bit. I'd always rather have the line too long than too short, just because I can adjust it a little easier just to erase them away. Then at least I know where I'm aiming when I put my pencil or my ruler down. All right, so now I need to establish the side of the staircase next. Now these are done through pointing toward the left vanishing point for any of the treads, which is the part you step on, and then for any of the risers, which is the part that lifts to the next step, have to be perpendicular to my horizon line. So I'm going to pretend that the top of this box is my first tread. So I need to start with a riser here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower this down. So that way you can see this vanishing point. You won't be able to see the other one, but we don't need it in this initial part. So the first thing I'm going to do is line my triangle up, because I know I need to be perpendicular when I make this first line. And I'm going to make my first vertical. Remember, I've got a step here, so I'm going to think about the width of a step, and I'm going to draw straight down for my first riser from that. So it's just one line hanging down above there. So this is going to be the top of my first tread, and this is going to be the first riser. And if you don't see it yet, don't worry, it'll make sense in a minute. So now I'm going to go from my left vanishing point here to the bottom of that riser line to make my next tread line. Now I'm going to go back to lining this up with my horizon line and lining up with my tread line for another riser. Going to the left vanishing point, bottom of that riser line for the next tread. Now in reality, these lines should be getting slowly longer, and I'm trying to do that. I'm not measuring anything, but I'm visually trying to make sure they're just slightly longer, because as things get closer to you in perspective, they become larger, and as things go away in the distance, they become smaller. If your friend is far in the distance and they look really tiny, it's not because they've shrunken, it's because they're further away, so therefore they look smaller. So I'm trying to use what I know about perspective, knowing that things get smaller, making these measurements get larger and larger only slightly as they move toward us as the viewer, because our closest point to this is this line here. So now I'm again lining up with my horizon line. Now if I run out of space here to get any more steps in, I can always end up with a little welcome mat in the front, which is what happened with this one. Sometimes it works out that it works exactly perfect, that you don't have any, but if you end up with a little welcome mat, that's all right, no problem. So now I'm going to go back to my left vanishing point, my next tread. And it looks like I probably am going to end here with the riser. Again, lining up this with my horizon line. All right, so there's the end of my steps. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. Now, if you make these lines too small, then you're going to have a ton of steps, and this will be very hard to control. So I would say between 5 and 8 steps would be about the right amount. So you want to make sure that they're long enough that you're not making it too difficult for yourself. All right, so at this point, I'm now ready to create the lines that are going to go to the right vanishing point. Now, I'm going to be lining them up, but in order for you to be able to see what I'm doing, just know that the right side is going all the way to the vanishing point. I'm going to keep this zoomed in close. So my ruler is pointing all the way to my right vanishing point. I'm lining it up with my first line there. And now I'm going to my next intersection, lining up with my right vanishing point. And I could go all the way to the edge of the box, and I would probably recommend that you do that for the first time, because being able to estimate how long those lines should be is a whole nother issue. So if you're not sure, go ahead and draw all the way to the edge of the box. I'm getting closer there. So what I'm doing is I'm going to each of the lines that we made, each of those little zigzag bumps, I'm going to my right vanishing point all the way over this way. And I'm just drawing a line at this point. I'm going to establish the other side of the steps in a minute. So I'm making sure this is lined up with my horizon line over, or my vanishing point over on the right. Each one of these. So I adjust my ruler and draw my line. And then the last step here, I think. All right, so there's all my cross steps, cross lines, and you can see if I laid something there, you would see the steps are now starting to form. So you can see where they go up. Now this side obviously needs some work because we don't have the side of the steps established. So now we're going to go back to our horizon line with our triangle, and I'm going to line up the top step here, lining up my horizon line in the top of my triangle. So I can now create the rest of that riser, going from this point to my left vanishing point, switching back again to my lining this up, vanishing point on the left, horizon line, vanishing point on the left, horizon line, vanishing point on the left, and then lastly horizon line. Okay, so there, my staircase is now in there. So now I've got a lot of structure around the space that needs to go away. But before I can do that, I want to put my welcome mat on, or my little rug in front of the steps. So I'm going to line up my vanishing point and draw my line out there. So now I'm going to use my eraser, and I'm going to erase away any of these extra lines that we don't need. Now I drew really dark so it would show up on the camera, so these lines are probably not going to erase 100%. So hopefully you drew much lighter and are able to erase away all these extra lines without having them show. And lastly, I'm going to need to erase this line that goes across and down. And I'll probably have to redraw some of my stair lines as needed. Some students like to then shade, you know, the risers. So if you get the feeling that you want to kind of shade that in, you could certainly shade in the risers of each of the steps. That's totally optional. You don't have to do that. But it looks kind of nice once it's done. So if you wanted to do that, you could certainly shade in those steps. But again, that's optional. You don't have to do that. So once I have my staircase in place, the next step is going to be, let me move my camera up a bit. So now I'm going to work on this box here, and I want to put a hole in it. And usually during class, what I do is I tell students to try it on their own to see if they can make a hole in that side of the box. Now, I would recommend if you are at home and you're quarantined that you go ahead and try your best to make that happen. If you're here at school watching this tutorial, again, pause the video and see if you can make that happen. I'm going to go ahead and start the steps so that you can see how to do it, but I recommend that you try it on your own if you're feeling confident. So the first thing I need to do, of course, with any box, and this is going to be a hole, I want to make sure I start with the line that is closest to me as the viewer. So it's going to be this edge of the hole is going to be closest. So I'm going to, again, I'm using my triangle, lining up the edge of the triangle with the horizon line, and I'm making the first line of this hole that's going to be in there. Now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower this down, and just know that I'm going to be flipping back and forth. I'll tell you which vanishing point I'm going to. Right now I need to create the top and bottom of the hole, so I'm going to go to my right vanishing, or my left vanishing point. So I'm going to line up with this one, top of the line, left vanishing point to the bottom of the line, guessing at the length there, but I know I need another vertical, so again I'm going to use my triangle, line this up here. Now I've got a square on there, so it kind of looks like a microwave glass door maybe, but I needed to actually go through this so that there's an actual hole in there so we could actually throw an object through the middle. At least that's what I'm challenging you to do. So we're got a few things we need to establish. First of all, we know how thick this box is. Now it's possible that you made your box even deeper or thicker, so you may not see sunlight through that. There's probably might be a hole, but you may not be able to see sky behind there. We should be able to, because if you look at where this intersection is, that's going to be coming up here. So we should be able to see, and then if I go from here, there should be a nice section of air that's going to, or sky that's going to show through there. But in order to figure that part out, what I need to do is draw a few lines to get that established. So I'm going to be drawing from this top corner to my right vanishing point, and I'm going to need my ruler because there's no way that triangle is going to reach that far. So I'm going to go from this top corner to my right vanishing point, and I'm going to guess at the depth of the box here. And it looks like I made it a little bit long, so the intersection's here and I made the ending there. So I need to make sure that this is going to be perpendicular to my horizon line. So now I'm going to line up with this intersection right there, the bottom of the box where the two sides came together. That's my corner, and I need to establish that line to come up to intersect here. So wherever that intersects is where the edge of that box, of the interior space is. So here, I'm going to come up and stop there. That's not right. Nope, oh, sorry. It's been a year since I've done this challenge. That's not what I want. I'm going to keep that line there. I'm going to do the top line first. I'm going to redraw that one. Okay, so I'm going to do my top line first, and I'm going to establish that from this outside dot to my left vanishing point. Oh, maybe it was right. That's lining up correctly. It looked like it was going to be too shallow to me. So I'm lining up from here to there, and I'm going to reconnect with that. I guess I did do that right. So it looked too shallow to me, but I think it's fine. So now again, I'm lining up with that intersection, and it does meet up with that intersection there. Yep, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to erase out what extra line length I have there. All right, so there are the inside edges of that box. So it looks like there's a hole in there. So now I could actually throw, say, a ball through there, and the ball would come out the other end. So that's what I was looking for. Okay? All right, so the next part, I'm just going to slide my paper since this is already zoomed in. So the next thing I'm going to challenge you with is to place a box on top of this box that's smaller, and it cannot be the same size. Okay, it has to be a smaller box. I don't want it sitting on top of this one. So if you're ever in a situation where you are, let's say you're drawing a coffee table with a stack of books on it, this would be a way to, this could be pretend that's part of the start of the coffee table. You'll need to start with the line that is closest to you, as always. Make a nice size box here on top. The bottom of the line needs to fall anywhere on that top surface that I want it to, as long as it is somewhere on that top surface. So I'm going to place this stack of, well, in this case, just a box. Let's say I'm going to, just a couple books are stacked here. So it's going to be a small box, not super tall, because I'm thinking about books on a table. But you can think about whatever you want. And now I've got the line closest to me. I can kind of ignore this box because the bottom of this is on this surface, so I know this box is going to look like it's sitting on this one. And I'm going to go to my right vanishing point to establish the sides of the box. Now, could this box be taller? Could this go way up here? Sure, it can go above this space. In fact, it's going to go beyond that space a little bit because of the way that it's shaped. And I'm going to go to the left vanishing point. Left vanishing point to the top of the line. Okay, and now I'm going to use my triangle, line it up with my horizon line. Make sure that's lined up all the way across. Same thing over here, lining up my triangle with the horizon line. Now this is weird because my two lines are very close to the edge of the box, but slightly larger. So now I'm going to go to my vanishing point on the right, establish the back edge of the box, vanishing point on the left, the back edge of the box. So there I've got a nice tiny little box sitting on top of this one, which I could easily create two books out of that. If I wanted to even draw the covers and things, I could make that happen. So, all right, so there is the levels of challenge with the box drawing. Once you've completed all 5 of these boxes, converted this box into a staircase and made a hole in this one, you're finished with this part. Make sure that you put your name and your bell. All right, and this is going to be due on the same day that your practice room is going to be due, which I'm going to start that video next. Thank you.